Hello, BookTube. Welcome back to the History Shelf. My name is Peg, and say I'm here today with a book haul of sorts. I've been meaning to make this video for quite a bit of time. This one is a theology book haul with a more of a Catholic bent. Trying to think of a witty title for this video, like a Protestant hauls Catholic books. But I'm always trying to read widely, and I find that there's a lot of Catholic writing out there that it's pretty rigorous and don't necessarily agree with all the different tenets. Being Protestant, more of like a Lutheran girl, Catholic light, as they call Lutherans. um, but it's been a while since I've done just books relating to religion and Christianity, and in this case, more of a Catholic bent. So for all my Catholic viewers, I think you're going to really enjoy this. I'd be curious to hear if any of you have read these books or picked them up. Some of them are new. I really enjoy perusing Ignatius Press. They've got a lot of really good stuff. I'm currently reading when I can, so I'm not finished yet with it, but the first book in the I don't think it's three books that Pope Benedict XVI wrote on Jesus, but I'm reading Jesus of Nazareth, the first book that he wrote. Very rigorous, very robust, intellectually robust book. It's a lot more than you expect when you start reading it. It's really heady. It's heady stuff. So I've been on a Joseph Ratzinger kick lately. I'd say from the past year, I've picked up almost everything he's written, and I plan to kind of read my way through his stuff. Now, having said that, does that mean I'm converting to Catholicism? No, no, I'm not. I still very much cleave to the Protestant path, but I find a lot of beneficial insights from Catholic writing. So, having said that, I have a stack of books here. Mostly, let's see here. I think I have one that's fiction uh, by a Catholic writer, so it's interesting. Let me show you this heavy stack of books that I'll be going through with you. Ooh, look at that. They are beautiful. I have a pretty healthy library of Ignatius Press books, and they all have that same type of design, um, which is like this. You've got these kind of ribbons around the top. So the bookcase in my master bedroom has a lot of Ignatius titles that look like that, and so we're going to be adding these to the master bedroom, which I'm excited about. But I wanted to get these filmed for you so I can get them up on the shelves. And oh, I've got something a little there. Thank you, book. Anyway, so let's just hop right in. Let's start with some of these smaller books. Not all. Okay, so there's two books that they're not Ignatius Press imprints, but I think I purchased them through Ignatius Press. Now, I've heard of this writer. Well, I've read some of his essays or just articles that he's written for First Things magazine or journal. It's more of a journal that I subscribe to. His name is Anthony Esselin. And this looked really cool. This is a 2-volume little set, 2 small books. And it's called How the Church Has Changed the World, Volumes 1 and 2. There you go. Oh, wait a second. Okay, so this is volume 2 and 3. I apologize. What did I? It's been a while, guys. I don't know. I think I have to look for volume 1, or I don't know if that was a separate purchase. Okay, guys. Well, anyway, I've got volumes 2 and 3. So let's look at volume 2. Sorry for the glare. Let me turn down this light a little bit. There we go. And it's printed by Magnificat publisher. Small little volume, about 180 pages. Um, okay, these are 24 essays originally published by Magnificat from January 2016 to December 2017 that will give you a new appreciation for the church and her mission in the world. It says, did you know who created the calendar as we know it? Who developed music notation? That universities develop from the desire to share knowledge of Christ and more. Let me read this blurb. The second volume of essays by Professor Anthony Esselin offers 24 more examples of the redeeming presence of the church, capital C, in the world. You will see that the church, far from fearing science and rational inquiry, has been the force behind some of our greatest advances. You will learn of statesmen who were moved by the faith in their courageous pursuit of a just social order. You will be inspired by the heroic efforts of missionaries who traveled far and wide to draw more souls into the embrace of the church. You will read of artists and thinkers who have left us some of civilization's greatest treasures. And you will see that saints and men and women of faith, far from having their freedom diminished or personalities muted by union with Christ and obedience to the church, stand out as history's most free and vibrant figures. And plus, you know, look at the cover is just really beautiful too. It's just like that. Kind of has this layout, you know, and the print here, maybe you can't tell it's not actually black type. It is like an off red. It's like a light red, kind of like you might find in any type of like devotional or anything like that. Um, okay, so these are essays. So I know, and I've read Anthony Esselin before, so I wanted to check this out. And it was kind of I think it was a big sale that I picked these up. And this is volume 3. Another beautiful cover. And these were 24 essays originally published. So Magnificat must have been like a small, like devotional monthly journal or something. And these were published between January 2018 and 2019. So these are kind of interesting. It says, did you know that the man who captained the first expedition to circumnavigate the globe introduced Christ to peoples along the route who had never heard of his love and offer of salvation? Or that the apostle to the Germans, and that's in quotes, apostle to the Germans, out of his intense desire to win pagans for Christ, exchanged a life of ease and honor for the crown of martyrdom that bore fruit in the conversion of Europe. Or that the first governor of New York, a Catholic, based his governance on Christian principles and attention to the common good, enacting laws that are still in place today. Oh. Yeah, so it's just, you know, it's and it says, may these stories energize your own faith and encourage you to share it with everyone God has placed along your path. So it's kind of neat. It's good for, you know, my spiritual edification. I like to be reading something at all times relating to faith, um, and Christ, and so I'm looking forward to checking those out. All right, so now we're moving on to a big pile of Pope Benedict books, and I'll save the fiction one for later on here. Oh, okay, I'll do that. And then I have some interesting history titles relating to like missionaries and yeah, missionaries, popes. I've got a biography on here on Gregory the Great. But let's focus on. Okay, so this stack right here then is going to be all Pope Benedict stuff. So I paid a little bit more for this. I actually paid. I saw this, you know, little insight into how Peg watches BookTube. Um, Sometimes I'll search for like, you know, theology. I'll look for whatever, and there's tons of different pastors out there that love to do like little tours of their library or their pastoral libraries at their churches, and some are, you know, Protestant and some are Catholic. And it was interesting. This one guy, and I need to remember what his name was. He's a Protestant. I think he might have been with Presbyterian or whatever, but he had a really interesting home library where he was reading Catholic works. And so I didn't feel alone in that. I was like, okay, I get you. I hear you, brother. And he pointed this book out and he says, this is really fantastic. And this is Joseph Ratzinger's Collected Works, Theology of the Liturgy. Big hardcover book put out by Ignatius. It's a beautiful, beautiful copy here. I think it must be oh, probably $30 or $40. But this collects all of his writings on liturgy. And I'll read to you a little bit about it. This major volume is a collection of the writings of Joseph Ratzinger, also known as Pope Benedict XVI, on the theology of the liturgy of the Church, a subject of preeminence to him as a theologian, professor, and spiritual writer. It brings together all his writings on the subject, short and long, giving his views on liturgical matters and questions over many years and from various perspectives. He chose to have his writings on the liturgy be the first volume published of his collected works, though listed as volume 11, because, as he says in the introduction, the liturgy of the Church has been for me since my childhood the central reality of my life, and it became the center of my theological efforts. I chose fundamental theology as my field because I wanted first and foremost to examine thoroughly the question, why do we believe? But also included from the beginning in this question was the other question of the right response to God, and thus the question of the liturgy. By starting with the theme of liturgy in this volume, Ratzinger wants to highlight God's primacy, the absolute precedence of the theme of God. Beginning with a focus on the liturgy, he said, tells us that God is first. Indeed. He quotes from the rule of St. Benedict, nothing is to be preferred to the liturgy, as a way of ordering priorities for the life of the Church, capital C, and of every individual. He says that the fundamental question of the man who begins to understand himself correctly is, how must I encounter God? Thus, learning the right way of worshiping is the gift par excellence that is given to us by faith. The essential purpose of his writings on the liturgy is to place the liturgy in its larger context, which he presents in three concentric circles. First, the intrinsic interrelationship of Old and New Testament. Without the connection to the Old Testament heritage, the Christian liturgy is incomprehensible. The second circle is the relationship to the religions of the world, which I find fascinating. The third circle is the cosmic character of the liturgy, which is more than the coming together of a group of people. The liturgy is celebrated in the expanse of the cosmos, encompassing creation and history at the same time. Yes. So, really happy to finally, well, to stumble across it, watching another booktube video of a pastor going through his library, and I was just like, look, Protestants are reading Ratzinger, and so I was just really curious about this book as well. So I think it was like a sale. I think I might have bought these around Christmas. I'm just now getting to these things, you guys. Woo! It's been a crazy year. Peg has taken on a lot of stuff in her life, and so I'm really learning my limits of how much I can do. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But I really wanted to get this, and I'm sorry I'm taking so long to do this video, but you didn't know, right? Only I'm sitting here with this knowledge. The rest of you are like, oh, look at these new books she's got. So I should just shut up about it. The next Pope Benedict book I picked up looks really good, and it's, really historical as well. Nice, beautiful hardcover from Ignatius Press. This is Pope Benedict XVI's Holy Men and Women. Let me get that glare off there. Of the Middle Ages and Beyond. There you go. Not too big of a book. It says here in this collection, Pope Benedict reflects on the lives of great saints from the Middle Ages and beyond. The theme that unites these men and women across time is the constant need of the Church for renewal. In every generation, God raises up holy ones who challenge Christians to live as they ought, as true disciples of Christ. So that's a very simple explanation. Let's see, some of the ones we have in here are your ones you would guess. We got St. Francis of Assisi, St. Bonaventure. This one I have not heard, St. Dominic Guzman. We've got, oh yes, Hildegard of Bingen. Yes, we have John Duns Scotus, St. Thomas Aquinas, of course, St. Albert the Great. These are fantastic. St. Catherine of Bologna. Of course, we have St. Catherine of Siena. Wow, we've got a lot of different ones in here. St. Elizabeth of Hungary. And St. John of the Cross, who I know is Johnny Keene's one of his favorite. He reads Dark Night of the Soul, I think, every year. And so, Johnny, I still want to read that book. I still need to get a copy of it. Yeah, so, and I don't know much about St. John of the Cross. So, oh, and St. Therese of Lisieux. And my mother was named after St. Therese with the same spelling. Hi, Mom, if you're watching, there's your saint name right there. I know, because my parents or my grandparents were Roman Catholic, and my mom was raised Catholic, but she was the first of 7 kids, and I think she was the one that, well, we've got a lot of good, um, you know, my grandmother's Irish as well, so we've got a Patrick, we've got a Michael, we've got a, you know, um, Joseph, we've got Mary, we've got all these great names, and my mom was named after Saint Therese of Lisieux, so that's fantastic. Anyway, I thought this would be great to kind of get my mind around some of these different saints and get a little bit of a biography on them. I do want to learn more about Saint John of the Cross, so that'll be something on my list to look for. And then we kind of get into Ratzinger's like cultural analysis, his writings. This is Western Culture Today and Tomorrow, forward by George Weigel, and I read his work. I really enjoyed his last book on the Vatican II, I think. And then we have an epilogue too, but as we know, Pope Benedict passed away in 2000. He passed away. You can Google Western Culture Today and Tomorrow. It says here, well known for his important scholarly contributions to dogmatic theology and biblical studies, Joseph Ratzinger has also written penetrating observations of our times. This book includes some of his keen insights into the social and political challenges confronting modern Western societies. Writing most of these chapters just before his election as Pope, Ratzinger sought to remind Europeans, who at the time were crafting a new constitution, that the civilizational project we call the West is a cultural achievement with a history. Jerusalem, Athens, and Rome, he reminds us, were the 3 foundation stones upon which Western civilization was built. The invaluable contributions of these 3 still form the basis for the Western understanding of human dignity and human rights, which spread from Europe to the US and beyond. This book also includes, as an epilogue, a new essay by Pope Benedict on clerical sex abuse, tracing the moral disorder that preys upon the young to the collapse of faith both inside and outside the church. So I kind of love writings like that kind of talk about what's going on today and trends and what we're seeing. I just eat that stuff up, whether it's coming from a Catholic perspective or just your standard mainline evangelical or Protestant, whatever. I just enjoy reading cultural studies like that and opinion. The next one I picked up is A Turning Point for Europe, question mark, by Joseph Ratzinger. And this is the 20th anniversary edition, with a new foreword by, another writer that I've read a lot in First Things, James Shaw. I think he's he's a Jesuit, so he's SJ, Society of Jesus. So A Turning Point for Europe. Not too big of a book. Less than 200 pages. It says here, Cardinal Ratzinger addresses the challenges and responsibilities that both the church and society in Europe face after the collapse of Marxism. Both liberalism and Marxism have denied religion the right to have any influence on public affairs and the common future of humanity. Since there is also a great spiritual emptiness growing in the West, it's already here. With the increased secularization, consumerism, and hedonism, Ratzinger's comments apply as much, if not more, to the United States as well. With the downfall of Marxism, religion has been discovered anew as an ineradicable force for both the individual and society. While there is renewed interest in religion, the dangers also exist to lay hold of religion as an instrument to serve various political ideas. And we see that. We see politicians using religion as they use it as a weapon, they use it as, they're leveraging it. It's not meant for that. Ratzinger, whose theological work has often dealt with the reasons for our faith, reflects upon the various problems facing humanity at this turning point of our history and offers genuine hope based upon a deep Christian faith. He also addressed the critical role that the church has in relationship to the world and the essential task of bringing Christ back into our culture. Indeed. Amen. So I picked up a turning point for Europe. I'm gonna link to Ignatius Press in the comments in the description box below if you're interested in just browsing and checking out their website. They got a lot of great stuff. Um, Now I know that geez, a while ago I was asking for like recommendations on like just maybe a one volume or really from my Catholic friends out there, like a good one volume history. It could be more than one volume of the Catholic Church, but then I saw this at Ignatius and I was like, whoa. Oh, I think this is what I'm looking for. And this is by James Hitchcock. This is a very big, bodacious hardcover. It's called History of the Catholic Church from the Apostolic Age to the Third Millennium. You can see it's a nice, big, big book. Uh, Kind of a little bit oversized. It's got the annotations on the side, or at least like little tabs about what's going on in the paragraph, what they're talking about. Critics of scholasticism, faith seeking understanding, essence and existence, that kind of thing. Um, this is dope. This is dope. I'm not using not using academies here. It's dope. Okay. Um, and it's just a beautiful book. Look at that. Okay, sorry. The Catholic Church is the longest enduring institution in the world. Beginning with the first Christians and continuing in our present day, the Church has been planted in every nation on earth. The Catholic Church claims Jesus Christ himself as her founder, and in spite of heresy from within and hostility from without, she remains in the 21st century the steadfast guardian of belief in his life, death, and resurrection. The teachings and redemptive works of Jesus, as told in the Gospels, are expressed by the Church in a coherent and consistent body of doctrine, the likes of which cannot be found in any other Christian body. As a Protestant, I might raise my hand on that. The history of the Catholic Church is long, complicated, and fascinating, and in this book it is expertly and ably told by James Hitchcock, professor of history at St. Louis University for over 30 years. As in the parable of Christ about the weeds that were sown in a field of wheat, evil and good have grown together in the church from the start, as Hitchcock honestly records. I would hope so. He brings before us the many characters, some noble, some notorious, who have left an indelible mark on the church while never losing sight of the saints, who have given living testimony to the salvific, that's a great word, salvific, power of Christ in every age. This ambitious work is comprehensive in its scope and incisive in its understanding, a valuable addition to any school or home library. Yeah, some of the chapters we have: beginning at Jerusalem, the seed of Christians, the triumph of the cross, holy wisdom, light and darkness, Christendom, east and west, decline and rebirth, reform and counter-reform, reason and revolution, modernity, to the ends of the earth, the new nations, joy and hope, grief and anguish. And it's well over 500 pages. With the index, it's almost 600 pages. So I'm really looking forward to reading this. Of course, I have not yet. The next book I picked up from Ignatius is a slim little volume. It's Heroism and Genius: How Catholic Priests Helped Build and Can Help Rebuild Western Civilization by William J. Slattery. It's not too big of a book, but I was intrigued. And this one has, it's nicely, there's like some artwork in here, and doesn't that look great? Just these titles they just catch my eye. Distinctive features of Western civilization that budded in the Dark Ages. And it talks about the Mass, stuff like that. Scholarly monks. Uh, it's about 270 pages. Um, Talks about music, artistry, drama in their soul. Well, I'm just kind of looking through. I wanted to show you some of it. It's just richly illustrated, is what I'm trying to say. And it was on sale at the time that I bought it. So it says here, with stubborn facts, historians have given their verdict. From the cultures of the Jews, Greeks, Romans, Arabs, and Germanic peoples, the Catholic Church built a new and original civilization, embodying within its structures the Christian vision of God and man, time and eternity. The construction and maintenance of Western civilization, amid attrition and cultural earthquakes, is a saga spread over 1,600 years. And let me just add in a personal note here. If you're wondering why, if she's not a Catholic, why is she interested in this? We do owe a huge debt as non-Catholic peoples to the Catholic Church. It is a historic institution. There was good and bad, yes, throughout history, but you're going to find that in any institution. And even in other religious institutions. But we owe a huge intellectual and spiritual debt to the beginnings, to the church itself in the beginnings. Now, I do believe it went off the rails, and I think a reform was needed, and that's why I'm a Protestant. But I respect what it did, and what it tried to do. The construction and maintenance of Western civilization amid attrition and cultural earthquakes is a saga spread over 1,600 years. Okay, so I read that. During this period, Catholic priests, because they numbered so many men of heroism and genius in their ranks, and also due to their leadership positions, became the pioneers and irreplaceable builders of Christian culture and socio-political order. At times, you could almost say soldiers as well. Heroism and genius present some of these formidable men, fathers of chivalry and free enterprise economics, statesmen and defiers of tyrants, composers, educators, and architects of some of the world's loveliest buildings, and paradoxically, revolutionary defenders of romantic love. Who knew? Yeah. Here's an example. I just turned to the page talking about chivalry. They're referring to Bernard of Clairvaux, the man behind the statutes of the Templars. So, I mean, there's just so much good stuff in here and so much good history, you guys. I don't even think you don't even really need to be a Christian. If you're just into history and you enjoy religious history, this book has a lot to offer. So, I was glad to pick this up. Heroism and Genius by William J. Slattery. Okay, we're moving. And there's Daisy. How you doing, babe? Yeah, you sleepy? And she said, it's 95 degrees here in Denver. It is stinking hot. I'm so over summer. Who's ready for fall? This girl is. How about you guys? I am ready for cooler weather, and so is Daisy. Daisy Boots. Look at her. I love when she does that and she kind of stretches and then over her nose. You're so cute. Are you my baby? She's my baby girl. Okay. Roxy is in the other room with Martine. So it's just me and Daisy putting out a video at the history shelf. All right, let's do a couple of these others that are more along the history line. So we've got In the Eye of the Storm, a biography of Gregory the Great. You guys, look at this, by Sigrid Grabner. This is a really beautiful book. It's got the French flaps. Yeah. Again, Ignatius Press has a lot of cool stuff. Uh, let's see here. Rome in the year AD 590. A plague is tearing through the city. Pope Pelagius, and I love that name. I don't know what about it, I just love it. Pelagius. Pope Pelagius II is dead. Outside the walls, Lombard soldiers are raising their swords. What can save the eternal city? All eyes and all hopes are on the next pope. That almost rhymes. Veteran writer Sigrid Grabner tells the dramatic story of Pope Gregory I, a poor monk known now to history as St. Gregory the Great. Born to a noble family And trained in Roman law, Gregory had been prefect of the city of Rome as a young man, but he gave up his power and wealth to walk in the footsteps of St. Benedict. Everything changed when he was raised, against his will, to the highest office in Christendom, and found himself, as he wrote to one friend, in the eye of the storm, at the helm of an old and rotten ship. Although Gregory sensed only his inadequacy, he not only steered Rome clear of a shipwreck, but laid the foundations for the future of Europe. In 14 years as Pope, he instituted sweeping financial reforms, ensured legal protection for the poor, developed a system of musical notation, wrote influential works of theology, quieted the Byzantines and the warring Lombards, and led a citywide pilgrimage to the Church of St. Mary Major. That, tradition says, brought an end to the plague. Grabner's vivid narrative of the life of Pope Gregory I reads like a novel, evoking the landscape of early medieval Italy with humanity and realism. It brings us face to face with a man who, for all his weaknesses, became an instrument in the hand of God and let himself be made great. Doesn't that sound fantastic? Oh, I love it. Ah. Every time I do these, I find myself wanting to start reading while I'm still filming. So I apologize. I'm like, this is so awesome. I just need more hours in the day. You know, I think of heaven and I'm just like, let there be books. Please let there be books. So all the books I wasn't able to read, worthwhile stuff, I could read for eternity. And I hope to. In the Eye of the Storm, a biography of Gregory the Great. Okay, next book I got about two missionaries and to two separate areas of the world. Let's start with this one because it seems really interesting to me. It's kind of brings you over to North America, and I'm kind of really into reading early American history right now. I'm reading a buddy read with Bill Rutenberg on our first Civil War, about loyalists and patriots prior and during the American Revolution. So a lot of this kind of takes, we're talking, we're just going over some of the invasion plans of Canada and stuff, and just the different alliances with the Native American peoples at the time. And this kind of talks about one of the tribes that I've always been intrigued by, the Hurons. So what we have here is Jean de Brebeuf, I think, Saint Among the Hurons by Francis X. Talbot, Society of Jesus. So a really good work of history I'm anticipating. And this is going to be taking place in the 17th century. So, yeah, we're going way back. It says here the Hurons stared at the giant young Norman, as tall and broad as they, a Jesuit priest robed in black and with a full black beard on his gentle face. Oh, I wonder if this was the movie that they, or this was the man they based that movie on, Black Robe. Remember that movie came out maybe maybe 30 years ago. It could be longer, but there was a movie called Black Robe. I want to watch it now. Wait, okay, this might be about him, or that movie was. Okay. He was to live among them for 19 years, patiently and with enormous difficulty, learning their ways and language. He would eat their raw bear and moose meat, paddle many months and many miles in their canoes, build his rough chapels surrounded by their longhouses, and win their respect and love, leading a small band of them into the Christian faith. At length, joined by other black robes, that's in quotes, so that's what they called them, but it could be that movie could be based on this guy. Father Jean de Brebeuf erected a bit of old France with church and stockade in the Canadian wilderness. Yet he saw his village chapels burned, his converts shunned and tortured, and his fellow priests murdered by the Iroquois, the enemy of the Hurons. Never disturbed by fears for his own safety, he also died at their hands after incredible tortures in 1649. This swift-paced book is more than a biography of a great saint. It is a vital chapter in the tragic history of New France in North America, a story of the failure of colonization, partially redeemed by the blood of the martyrs of the church. Ah, sounds fantastic. I just want to start reading it right now. Mm. I'm telling you, Ignatius has some great stuff out there, guys. If you're interested, they got lots of different history titles and stuff. It doesn't have to be all theology. Good stuff. Okay, so then we're going to go across the pond, way over. We're going to go to China. We're going to go to China, and this is The Wise Man from the West, Matteo Ricci and His Mission to China by Vincent Cronin. And that's a really beautiful cover as well. So Father Matteo Ricci, he was a Jesuit, went to China as a missionary in 1582. Before he died there 28 years later, he had developed a deep knowledge of and love for the country, the culture, and the people, earning himself the distinction of being called a wise man. Before Ricci's heroic mission, China was an unexplored land bordering on the vague, mysterious Cathay, and the West was no more than a rumor to the learned Mandarins, a distant, unknown region lying beyond the bounds of geography. In the person of Father Ricci, these two worlds met, and Vincent Cronin dramatically recreates the romance, the crossed purposes, and the potential tragedy of that meeting. He shows us ancient China, the timeless state, with a civilization older than that wherein Christianity first found expression. Because Ricci loved this civilization and honored it, he was able to teach his strange new Christian doctrine with tact and sympathy. Carrying much of the technological and philosophical wisdom of late Renaissance Europe, he thus found favor among the Mandarins, the men of learning who enjoyed high status at the imperial court. He learned Chinese to discuss with them both practical problems and religious questions. He lived as a great scholar among great scholars and left behind him a memory worthy of the Christian faith he served. Well researched and enchantingly written, Cronin's book relies almost entirely on original sources. Great. Including Father Ricci's own letters and reports, and his account of China written in Peking, also Beijing now, before his death. The seed of faith was sown, and the crop, even after more than 50 years of atheistic communism, continues to grow in present-day China. So this book came out, let's see when it was written though. Oh, this was written in the 50s. Wow. Okay. Oh, and this has another foreword by James Shaw, one of the writers I follow in First Things. He's also a Jesuit. Let's see here. Some good stuff in here. There's not too many, like, we got some stuff. We got some illustrations of the court. Oh, this sounds fantastic. Call to the East. But The Wise Man from the West, Father Matteo Ricci, and His Mission to China by Vincent Cronin. Okay, so what we have left here, I have a bunch of books by this novelist. I have yet to begin one, but I read really good reviews, and I think I'm going to like his work. And this is one of the other ones I wanted to add to my collection. And the writer is he's Michael D. O'Brien, and they also had a slim biography on him because I'd like to know more about him, which might really fill in. Maybe I should read it before I start reading his novels. But anyway, I have several on my shelf in the master bedroom, along with my other Ignatius Press books. But I think this is one of his more recent novels. It's in a beautiful hardcover. It's By the Rivers of Babylon. Michael D. O'Brien, as you can see. His hardcover book there. There's a picture of the writer here, and I'll show you on the biography there'll be a bigger picture. But that's Michael D. O'Brien. Michael D. O'Brien, let me tell you real quick. He's iconographer, painter, and writer. And I have several of these books I'm going to read here. He's a popular author of many best-selling novels, including Father Elijah, Strangers and Sojourners, Elijah in Jerusalem, The Father's Tale, Eclipse of the Sun, Sophia House, The Lighthouse, The Sabbatical, and Island of the World. His novels have been translated into 12 languages and widely reviewed in secular and religious media in North America and Europe. Okay, so By the Rivers of Babylon. Let's get into it. By the Rivers of Babylon presents the early life of the prophet Ezekiel, from his childhood to his service in the temple to the Babylonian captivity, where he was enslaved among the exiles along the river Chebar. Ezekiel, a bricklayer, is simple and timid. He is not yet a priest, and his visions have not yet begun. He stands in the midst of the Jewish exiles as they struggle to build a town of their own, to remain faithful to God's covenant without the temple, and to discern the various forces that threaten to divide them and erode their faith. All of these experiences flow like streams into Ezekiel's later mission to rally his people from inner destruction. What makes a prophet? Why was this man chosen? Michael O'Brien offers an intimate glimpse into the mind and heart of a visionary. Ah, I love it. That's the kind of I love reading these type of interpretations or imaginings of, characters from the Bible, not characters, actual people, prophets. So by the rivers of Babylon, that's really going to take us back to ancient time here. Um, oh, fantastic. If you are a fan or you've read a lot of Michael O'Brien or just even one, please comment below. I really would love to know your input as I approach his novels. I have tried to figure out which ones to start first. I know some of them have recurring characters, and I'm trying to Google and look at the chronology of some of these books. But I think this one is a standalone. I'm pretty sure this is a standalone novel. So I picked that up. And then I saw this and I'm like, I'd like to know more about Mr. Michael D. O'Brien. And this is On the Edge of Infinity, a biography, obviously, of Michael D. O'Brien by Clemens Cavellin. And it's got these beautiful French flaps as well. Ignatius, just physically wise, like with the books that they create, they're very beautiful. They're very well made and well designed. Um, so let's take a look. We're going to learn a little bit more about this man. This book tells the story of Michael O'Brien, one of the most popular Catholic novelists and painters of our times. It covers his life from his childhood in the Canadian Arctic. Oh, is it okay? Canadian? Okay. To the crucial decision in 1976 to devote himself wholly to Christian sacred arts, followed by his inspiration to write fiction and his best-selling apocalyptic novel, Father Elijah. I think I have that one. The story then continues to the present with explorations of O'Brien's other works. O'Brien's life is one of struggle against all odds to reestablish Christian culture and the materialist void created by the modern Western world. It is a timely reminder of hope in trials and sufferings, of endurance during marginalization and poverty. This is the first biography of O'Brien, and it also provides an introduction to his novels, paintings, and essays, so that's cool. Let's see here. The author, Clemens Cavellin, was granted unrestricted access to Michael O'Brien's personal archive, including his diary from the late 1970s until the present day. By revealing sides of O'Brien's interior creative life, including mystical experiences, spiritual battles, and illuminations, he has painted a portrait of a contemporary visual and literary artist whose inspiration arises from an intense fusion of imagination and active faith. Let's see if we can find some good pictures in here. Oh, okay. Oh, isn't that nice? So actually, a lot of the artwork on these books are his. That makes sense. Um, here's some of examples of his artwork, and his books have a lot of these type of covers. And there he is at work in his studio. This is great. Oh, pictures of him and his family. It's so nice. He's got a little pipe. He's smoking his pipe. He doesn't look very old to be smoking a pipe there, but he's like, yeah, I'm reading. I'm an intellectual young man. I love it. Um, fantastic. And this was a picture from about almost 10 years ago. There's Michael O'Brien. So yeah, I'm intrigued. I want to know more. And I want to know more from you. If you are familiar with Michael O'Brien's novels, please comment below. Share as much as you care to about what you've read, what you've enjoyed, how I should read them, in what order, any other recommendations you have. So that wraps up this long overdue Catholic theology book haul, kind of just Pope Benedict, Joseph Ratzinger writings kind of thing. So I can't wait to hear from all of you. I can't believe it's already a 45-minute video. But that's what happens when I start reading, and just talking about these books. And thanks for sticking with me, guys. And until next time, I will, you know what? I'm trying to find the closing. I'm not going to say happy reading. I'm just going to say thank you for watching. Thank you for following my channel. I really just appreciate all of you. And we'll see you soon. Take care and have a happy Labor Day weekend. Bye.